Okay, so you know that feeling, right? When like another one of those employee engagement surveys just lands in your inbox
Mm.
and you're kind of like, ugh, really? Another one? Like you almost can't even remember what the last one was about.
Oh, yeah. That feeling of survey fatigue, I think it's like a universal experience at this point.
Totally. But it makes you wonder, with all this data, all this feedback, are things actually improving? Or are we just like stuck in this loop of filling out these questionnaires and not much actually changing?
It's a really valid question, and it kind of gets at like the heart of what we're going to explore today, right? Like we've got these two different perspectives on this whole employee engagement thing.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
So, one is this article that argues that maybe we're focusing on the wrong thing. Like maybe instead of always surveying the workforce, it's time to turn the tables and kind of audit HR's practices, like their approach to engagement.
Flip the script a little bit.
Exactly. And then on a totally different side, there's this idea of using AI nudges to try and shape employee behavior. So, very different approaches.
Super interesting. And it's like two totally different ways of thinking about how to improve the workplace.
Right. So our goal in this deep dive is to really break down these viewpoints, understand where they're coming from, and think about what they might mean for you listening.
Yeah, for all of us who work in these organizations and have to deal with this stuff day in and day out.
Exactly.
All right, so let's start with that first idea, the one where it's like, hold on, maybe HR needs a little audit themselves before we keep surveying everybody else.
Okay, yeah. So this article, it's by Sylvia Ola, and she really challenges that like default assumption that the problem is always with the employees, that they're not engaged enough.
She's saying maybe the problem's with the system, not the people in it.
Right. And that's a pretty bold statement, right?
It is.
I mean, think about it. We spend so much time and resources measuring employee sentiment, but what if the real issue is how HR is approaching engagement to begin with? Like, are their strategies actually working?
It makes you wonder, if things aren't improving, maybe it's not that employees aren't providing good feedback, but that the way HR is set up is preventing them from actually acting on that feedback.
Right. It's like maybe the processes themselves are broken. So you can get all the feedback in the world, but it's not going to matter if there's no system in place to actually use it to make improvements.
Okay, so walk me through this idea of auditing HR practices a little bit more. Like, what would that even look like?
Well, it could take different forms, right? But the core idea is to look at the concrete things HR is doing, their programs, policies, processes, and see if they're actually aligned with their stated goals around employee engagement.
So not just asking employees, are you happy? But looking at, okay, what specific things is HR doing to try and make employees happy? And are those things actually effective?
Exactly. And it could involve, looking at things like onboarding processes. Are they actually setting people up for success and making them feel welcome and connected to the organization? Or training programs, development opportunities, how those are being utilized. Even things like performance management, how feedback is given and received, how goals are set.
So basically taking a deep dive into all aspects of HR and looking for gaps, inconsistencies, or just areas where things could be done better.
Yeah, and thinking about it from the employee's perspective, right? Like, is there a disconnect between what HR says they're doing to support engagement and what employees actually experience on the ground?
And then using that information to make real concrete changes.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest potential benefits of this approach. It's not just about identifying problems, but it's about identifying problems that HR can actually do something about because they have control over those systems and processes.
So it's not just gathering data for the sake of data. It's about gathering data that can be used to drive real, meaningful change.
Exactly. And, thinking back to those surveys you were talking about, Ola even makes a point about how the very questions we're asking in those surveys might be part of the problem. Like, are we even asking the right questions?
That's so interesting. Like maybe the questions themselves are so generic or vague that the responses we get aren't actually helpful.
Right. Or maybe the questions are focused on the wrong things. Like, instead of just asking about work-life balance, maybe we should be asking about specific policies or practices that would actually support work-life balance.
Because asking about work-life balance as this general concept, it doesn't really tell you anything specific about what needs to change.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of having some kind of standards or framework comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What kind of standards are we talking about?
So Ola uses the analogy of like vitamins versus painkillers.
Okay.
The idea is that a lot of current HR trends, they're like vitamins. They're nice to have, but they're not addressing the root cause of the problem.
Like those trendy wellness apps everyone's pushing these days?
Exactly. But standards, they're more like painkillers. They're designed to target the specific pain points, the underlying issues, and provide a clear roadmap for how to address them.
So instead of just offering employees another mindfulness app, maybe HR needs to look at whether their workload expectations are even realistic in the first place.
Right. And I think that's where looking at other industries can be helpful. Like finance has accounting standards, healthcare has medical standards, even manufacturing has quality control standards. So why not HR?
That's a really good point. Like, we have these established standards in other fields to ensure consistency, quality, and ethical practices. Why not in HR, which deals with something as important as people and their well-being at work?
Exactly. And Ola argues that this lack of standards is a big part of why HR is often seen as reactive instead of proactive,
Mm.
and why we see so much turnover and dissatisfaction because the underlying issues aren't being addressed in a systematic way.
It's almost like we're just putting Band-Aids on things instead of actually solving the root cause.
Yeah. And that's why she even questions the value of things like exit interviews. Like if there's no real commitment to using that feedback to improve the system, what's the point?
Right, it just becomes a box to check off
Yeah.
instead of an opportunity for real learning and improvement.
Exactly. So our overall message is that, if we want to truly improve the workplace and move beyond this constant cycle of surveys and dissatisfaction, HR needs to step up and develop those clear, standardized approaches to engagement.
Okay, so that's a pretty compelling case for why we need to maybe shift the focus inwards a bit and look at what HR is doing or not doing. But we also have this other perspective, right? The one about using AI nudges to shape employee behavior. And that sounds, I don't know, a little bit more Big Brother-ish, maybe?
Yeah, I can see why you might say that, but it's actually not about controlling employees. It's more about providing gentle nudges, prompts, or suggestions to help them make better choices and develop good habits in their work.
Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more about how that would actually work in practice.
So think about it like those little reminders you get on your phone, like to stand up and stretch or drink some water. Or maybe, Grammarly. It catches your typos and suggests better ways to phrase things.
Oh, I see. Like little helpful hints within your normal workflow.
Right. And the idea is that these AI nudges can be tailored to each individual employee and their specific goals or areas for improvement.
So give me an example. What might that look like?
So let's say you have a manager who struggles with giving feedback. An AI nudge could pop up at the end of a project and remind them, hey, it's time for a feedback session. Here are some questions you could ask your team members. Or it might suggest some positive reinforcement phrases they could use, things like that.
So it's not like forcing them to do anything, but just kind of prompting them with helpful suggestions at the right moment.
Exactly. And the nudges can be really subtle. It's not like a big alarm going off, give feedback now. It's more like a gentle reminder or a suggestion integrated into their existing workflow.
Okay, but I still have to ask, what about the whole ethical side of this? Like, doesn't it feel a little creepy to have an AI trying to influence your behavior at work?
Yeah, it's a valid concern. But proponents of this approach say it's all about implementation, right? Like the nudges should always align with employees' own goals and intrinsic motivations, not trying to force them to do things they don't want to do.
So it's more about helping people do what they already want to do, just maybe making it a little easier or giving them a little extra support.
Right. And it's also crucial to give employees control, like the option to opt out of these nudges if they don't find them helpful.
That makes sense. So it's not about manipulating people, but about creating a system that encourages positive behaviors and helps people reach their full potential.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this framework called FEAST, which stands for fun, easy, attractive, social, and timely. And this is basically a set of guidelines for designing effective nudges that are, fun, easy to follow, attractive to the person receiving them, socially reinforced, and delivered at the right time.
So if those nudges are designed well, it could actually make work a more positive and productive experience for everyone involved.
That's the idea. And it also ties back to that point about CHROs needing to show tangible business impact.
Hmm.
Because if these nudges are actually helping employees perform better, be more engaged, and make better decisions, well, then the CHRO can say, look, here's the data, here's the impact of what we're doing.
It takes them out of that role of just being the data collectors and puts them into more of a strategic position.
Right, exactly. They're not just measuring things, they're actively shaping things.
Okay, so we have these two pretty different perspectives. On the one hand, we have the idea that maybe HR needs to get its own house in order before we keep bombarding employees with surveys. And on the other hand, We have this more tech-driven approach of using AI to nudge employees towards better behaviors.
Right. And you can even see how those two perspectives might connect in some ways. Like if HR isn't clear about its own standards and what it's trying to achieve, then even the best designed AI nudges aren't going to be that effective.
Right, because the nudges need to be grounded in some kind of framework. They need to be pushing people towards something specific.
Exactly. So maybe the key is to think about both of these things together, right? Like
Yeah.
having clear HR standards could actually make the use of AI nudges more effective because it provides that foundation, that clear direction for what we're trying to achieve.
So it's not an either-or situation. It's about using both of these ideas, the audit and the nudges,
Yeah.
in a way that complements each other.
Right. And ultimately, it's all about creating a workplace where people feel supported, motivated, and engaged, and where all of these tools and technologies are being used in an ethical and human-centered way.
I like that. So as we wrap up here, I'm curious, what's your biggest takeaway from all of this? What's the most important thing for our listeners to keep in mind as they navigate their own work experience?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is this. We need to be more critical and thoughtful about how we approach employee engagement. It's not just about collecting data or implementing the latest trend. It's about taking a step back and asking those fundamental questions. What are we really trying to achieve? Are our current systems and processes actually working? And how can we use technology and data in a way that truly benefits both the organization and the people within it?
So well said. Really good food for thought for all of us, I think. And listeners, if you found this deep dive insightful, be sure to subscribe and follow for more discussions on navigating the ever-evolving world of work. We're exploring all kinds of interesting ideas here, so join us as we continue to unpack the complexities of the modern workplace.